Hello, good morning. I'm so excited to be joining you for day 2 of the Money Wounds Masterclass. Day 2 is so good. So we always save the best for last to reward everyone who sticks through to the finish line. And of course, inside of the program, there's going to be so much incredible healing as well. So today, I'm super excited to be diving into each of the 6 money wounds and really speaking about the energetic signature of each, how they feel when you have them, the ways that they impact your thoughts, beliefs, actions, and the ways that they're blocking money from you. And then we'll pick one of the 6 to do a little healing process on. It's really important to me that anyone who is engaging with my free content feels like they got something really actionable and life-changing. And so I don't want to save all of the healing for just inside of the paid program. So we'll make sure that we do a healing practice on one of the money wounds together. So the way that the money wounds works is that there are 6 of them. If you've taken the quiz, what you'll find is that you see like your top results and you'll see a percentage for them. So it's quite rare, perhaps impossible, I don't know for sure, to just have one money wound. So it's really more, there's typically going to be like 2 to 3 that are strong, and how strong they are will depend on you and your conditioning and your inner child wounds and how much you've perpetuated and taken action from this wounded place. But I don't think we need to get hung up on the percentages. So when you take the quiz, it doesn't need to be like, oh my gosh, well, I have all of these so strong, or they're at 40% or whatever. It's all just relative to how you answered the quiz question. So instead of getting hung up on that, it's really just information of like, oh, okay, these are my top 2 or 3. And as I read the description, like, yes, that feels really resonant. And then you'll have some that like may resonate like just a hint or not really at all. And in those cases, the beauty of learning about them is being able to better understand and communicate with a spouse, a child, a mother, a father, a loved one, a trusted friend, and really be able to hold space and empathy for someone else's money experience. So what I suspect is that probably about 4 out of the 6 will resonate in some capacity with you. And then there'll probably be about 2 out of the 6 where it's like, I don't have that at all, but oh my gosh, I can totally see that in this other person in my life. And what a beautiful gift it is to be learning more about them and how to support them as well, right? So with that, we're just gonna dive in, and I'm gonna start with the safe money wound. And from what I've seen thus far in the quiz results, that's one of the more common ones. It's one of the really cool things that I'm excited about in doing this work as data collection, because over time, I'm gonna be able to, either myself or through hiring a data scientist, really be able to see correlations between the money wounds and be able to understand like deeper levels of what the data is telling us and how to interpret that and be able to teach it on even a more next level. So the safe money wound, very simply put, is that unless you have a certain cushion of money, you don't feel safe. Like you don't feel physically safe. And so the cushion or threshold amount will change over time. Like for a while, you might feel like, man, if I just had $1,000 in the bank, I could sleep so much better at night. I could breathe easier. It would take the pressure off. And then you get the $1,000 in the bank, and then it starts to feel like, man, if only I had $5,000 in the bank, then I would be able to breathe easier. Then it would take the pressure off. Then I would feel more safe and secure with money. Then it becomes 10,000, 20, 50, 100. The truth of the truth with the safe money wound is that it's still a wound. And so anytime that we're looking for something external to provide our safety, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment, for feeling unsafe for a long time, and for these moving goalposts. And so when I think about someone very iconic that has the safe money wound, I think about Warren Buffett. Because Warren Buffett, is worth however many billions of dollars. He's obviously very well taken care of financially. And yet, if you watched the documentary about him, every work day he goes to McDonald's for breakfast before he goes into his office. Based on how he's feeling that morning about money, like about the performance of his portfolios, about his net worth, he actually chooses which McDonald's breakfast he orders based on how he's feeling about money. So we're talking about the difference of maybe $1.50 tops. And this man is not choosing his breakfast based on desire. He's not choosing his breakfast based on what feels good, what his body is saying it wants or needs this morning. He's making that decision on whether or not he wants to save $1 and he's worth billions. This is the safe money wound. Because when we use money as a surrogate measure for our safety and security, it feels scary to spend money. We have a lot of hesitation around letting it go. There is a lot of hoarder vibes and grippy energy around money. So the safe money wound, when you have it, typically when you do spend money, you're really looking for a deal. So when you can actually feel like you're saving money while spending it, that makes it much more palatable. So for all of you who are like total deal seekers, you can relate to this, but that is often coming from a wounded place. The other thing with the safe money wound is there can be a demonization of people who are spending money frivolously or recklessly or irresponsibly, in your opinion. So the safe money wound feels like I need to be in control of money. I need to have money. Money needs to come to me and stay and grow and never leave. And there tends to be an energy of like very steady, consistent growth over time through good stewardship. So people with the safe money wound are often very interested in like watching their 401k grow, watching their investment portfolio grow, but it's done with a steadiness that you don't see with the other money wounds. I think that's what I want to say about the safe money wound for now. I may come back to it because some of the money wounds, there can be some interconnectedness between them. So let's go now to the hard money wound. When you have the hard money wound, simply put, you have a limiting belief that money has to come through effort. And so if you want to increase your income, you have to increase your effort. And often the hard money wound works to an extent when you're in the lower income brackets. So you can see how if you're making $50,000 a year and you want to double your income, you can sort of mentally get behind the amount of effort that you're going to need to put in. And so people with the hard money wound often will resonate with like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone, like they'll resonate with the books and the speakers and the teachers that are out there talking about like the 10x club. Like we just do things 10x what everybody else does. Like we're just going to outwork the competition. And the hard money wound, as I was saying, like it works to an extent when you're at lower income levels, right? If you're at 50K, you can imagine the amount of effort that you would need to put in to get to 100K. And you might be able to get yourself behind that, right? You watch enough Gary Vee videos about working until your eyes bleed and you're like, okay, I'm gonna hustle for a few years. I'm gonna put in the effort in order to get to 100K. Where the hard money wound really breaks down and where it requires some healing in order to really unblock more money for you is when you get into 6-figure incomes or even like low 7 figures. Because you get to a point where it's like, okay, if I did 750,000 this year and I want to do 1.5 million, if I want to double, I can't see how I can put in more effort, or I hit a point where I'm simply unwilling, right? Because what it would mean to put in more effort would mean sacrificing my relationship with my spouse, sacrificing my relationship with my kids, sacrificing my relationship with my family, my social circle. And so we hit a point or a place in our career where the hard money wound simply must be healed in order to allow for more exponential wealth. The other thing that happens with the hard money wound is truly like a glorification around earning money in ways that require a lot of effort. So when you are resonating with this wound, you may find yourself drawn to the types of stories where it's like, you know, someone was just grinding it out in their music career for 10 years before they got discovered and made money. And you may also find yourself demonizing people who have received easy money. So when you check in with the way that you feel about people that are on unemployment or people that are receiving welfare or people that are receiving payments from a trust fund, if there's some jealousy there, if there is some frustration, if there's a feeling of like they should go out and get a job, they should work hard like the rest of us, they would feel so much happier if they were earning a living, those are all symptoms of a hard money wound. The other way that the hard money wound can show up for us is through difficult clients, is through a complicated business structure, is through the feeling of needing to over-deliver for clients. So if you notice that the money coming into your business always requires a lot of fulfillment work, or it always feels like there's a trade-off, like, oh, it really would be wonderful to take on this client to get the money, but they feel like a difficult personality. They're gonna be hard to work with. But you're allowing that and you're accepting it. That's often coming from a wounded place. So that's the hard money wound saying, yep, this checks out. You're gonna have to work really hard for this. Checkity check, check, perfect. Let them come on in. So that's the hard money wound. Let's talk about the money trust wound next. So the money trust wound, simply put, is that you do not trust yourself with money. You don't feel like money is safe with you. So you've overspent, you've been impulsive, you've racked up debt, you've made sketchy decisions, you've invested in stuff that just totally didn't pan out. Whatever the stories are, whatever like the evidence is swirling around, that's all coming from a wounded place. It's coming from a money trust wound. So often what you'll see in its more subtle forms is that people with a money trust wound are quite quick to want other people involved in their financial situation. So it can sometimes be a little bit of this like damsel in distress kind of energy where it's like, I'm just so bad with money. I just don't even know. So my husband takes care of all of it and he just gives me a budget every month. Ha ha ha. Like it's this outsourcing, but it's outsourced through avoidance of this wound. It's outsourcing from a deep place of mistrust in self. And so the money trust wound will say, let's find a spouse that can just handle the money. Let me take all my financial advice from my dad because he's so good with money. Let me hire a financial advisor, or let me put all of this money into the hands of this stockbroker. Why? Because deep, deep, deep down, I'm actually petrified of having this money in my account. Because what will I do with it? How will I squander it? How will I make mistakes with it? How will I misspend it? So we trust in others much more than we trust in ourselves. When we do have money in our account and we have a money trust wound, we will find places and ways to squander and misspend it because that's consistent with our belief system. So it happens from a very subconscious place, but it's like this sort of nervous energy around the money. And it actually feels really good to send it in the direction of something that isn't going to pan out, that isn't like a great way for money to go and circulate and grow and come back to us. I've actually realized I've kind of been forgetting to talk about the ways that these wounds block us. So with the safe money wound, the safe money wound tends to block us from windfalls. It blocks us from exponential wealth. It blocks us from making investments where money could really grow through circulation and come back to us multiplied because we feel like we have to hold on to it. The hard money wound blocks all of the easy money from us. So it blocks us from any windfalls. It blocks us from the type of money that just feels so magical because we're just using our gifts and it doesn't even feel like work, like it's so soul aligned. And in fact, probably if you have the hard money wound and you hear a coach talking about that, like, oh, this is just the most magical soul aligned clients and the energetic exchange and the exchange of money is just so beautiful and it's so win-win, like you're probably just eye roll. Like, yeah, okay, because it just sounds like bullshit. It sounds way too good to be true when you're operating from the hard money wound. With the money trust wound, you're blocking yourself from receiving more money because you don't trust yourself with money, and therefore like money doesn't really want to come to you because it's not being put to use for the highest good. So it's sort of staying away, and there's a part of you that doesn't want to call more of it in because the more of it you have, the scarier it is because it feels like the bigger the mistake and the bigger the missteps you're going to make, right? So it's like, if I knew I was going to make a bad decision, I would rather make the bad decision with $10 than $10,000, right? That would feel much more palatable to me. So the money trust wound keeps money at an arm's distance because subconsciously, if we believe that when you play out the movie, the end of it is a mistake, a mismanagement, a misstep, a squandering, it's like we really would rather do that with smaller sums of money. So we subconsciously block money from ourselves with the money trust wound for that very reason. So let's do the money shame wound next. The money shame wound, simply put, is like, who am I to deserve more money? So it's this deep feeling of unworthiness, or like I'm not anyone special, and the kinds of people that have more money, that have excesses, surpluses, riches, generational wealth, those are people not like me. Those are people that are doing something extraordinary. There's something special about them. There's sort of an inherent belief that they're worth more than little old me. And so with the money shame wound, the wound sort of says, you're not really deserving of this. So it could be really hard to ask for a raise. It could be really hard to charge higher ticket prices. It may be really hard to even charge at all if it's your gifts. Like if it's what you're really meant to be doing in this world, you may have a very difficult time charging anything for it. And this is where the money shame wound can sometimes dance and tangle itself with the hard money wound, because sometimes we feel like we're only worthy of the money if we've had to work hard for it. So you can see how both of them can kind of weave together in that way. But with the money shame wound, there's often a lot of justification around why your current salary or your current income is enough, why it's okay, why it's fair, why you're not actually being exploited or taken advantage of, because your view of yourself, your gifts, what you're doing is so low that you can sort of justify someone else not paying you a lot for it. With the money shame wound, typically the goals around money will be just kind of covering the basics, having a life of comfort, but nothing extravagant. There can be that inner nudge to play bigger, but often there's like an ignoring of it, because again, it's sort of like, well, who am I? In terms of the way that you're blocking money from you with the money shame wound, you're blocking it because you don't actually feel that you're deserving of it. And so if it were to come, if you had a client, let's say, that just said like, I want to work with you, I want to pay you, $10,000 for 3 months of coaching or whatever. I'm just using coaching as an example, but obviously these principles are universal. You would actually feel so bad about that. So with the money shame wound, you may not even accept that money at all. You might feel like, no, this is a mistake, or that's not my rate, so you actually only need to pay me this. Or if the client insisted, you would be feeling so icky about the whole engagement. You would have imposter syndrome, like out the yin yang, just feeling like, oh my gosh, if this client actually knew who I really was, they would feel so taken advantage of. There's no way that they would want to be working with me. They definitely wouldn't want to be paying me 10 grand for 3 months of coaching. I need to really over deliver for them. But you'd be over delivering from this really codependent energy of like, I need them to feel that it's worth it so that I don't feel bad and I don't feel so much shame. And it's like, it would create just a very energetically unclean type of scenario. And money doesn't like to come to us that way. And so a lot of the money is being blocked simply from that wounded behavior. Because if it were to come in surplus with the money shame wound running the show, it would just create bad feelings all around. For you, for the people that you're trying to serve. And so money's just sort of like, okay, you're not ready yet, so I'm just gonna hang out and wait back here until you are. All right, so the evil money wound is in the water. It's in the coffee. It's rarely the one that like when you take the money wounds quiz, it's rarely gonna be the top one, because it's so much more of societal conditioning and programming. There's so much like conditioning around it that we often are, it's happening on such a subconscious level, and it can be pretty subtle. So the evil money wound, simply put, is a belief that in order to get more money or to have more money, I would have to sacrifice my soul. I would have to do things that are against my morals and values. It can also feel like if I had money, I would be judged. So it's this real othering. Like, there are the people that have money, and there are the people who are judged, who are bad people, who are making bad decisions, who are compromising their morals and ethics. And then there's the rest of us. And so when we create that paradigm, it's actually very scary to even acknowledge and claim the fact that you want to be rich and that you want surpluses of money, because it would mean that what you would have to do to get it, or how it would feel having it, would be quite unpleasant. And so we get so many messages around this in society, right? Like, I just recently saw a picture of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, one of our US senators, going to the Met Gala in this gorgeous white dress, and on the back of it she had painted in red, "Tax the rich." And so that's a very like in your face example, but also the fact that as a society we're pretty okay with that message, right? We're okay enough with it that you can just like put it on your dress and go to a gala and have pictures taken and get in magazines. So there is this general disdain for the rich. There's a feeling of there's two different sets of rules and it's not fair. And also like we need to knock those people down a peg, whatever. And so when you have that money wound, this one, I think it's quite obvious then how you would be blocking money from yourself, right? Because if having more money means I have to sacrifice my morals, I have to sacrifice my values, I have to do things that I don't feel comfortable doing, or it means that I'm going to be judged, that I'm going to be ostracized in my community, that people will be talking about taxing me, people will be talking about knocking me down a peg. Like, that all sounds terrible. And our subconscious mind, in all of its brilliance, is like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. No. And so the money waits in the wings. It stays blocked. That wound keeps it at arm's distance because it doesn't feel safe or feel good to have it when our evil money wound is running the show. It can come in more subtle forms too, the evil money wound. So you may feel like, I don't have negative feelings towards rich people. I'm not saying that we need to like tax the crap out of them. I'm not saying that they've made sketchy decisions to get to the top. Like, that doesn't resonate with me. More subtly, the evil money wound comes through in really like wanting to be relatable and trying to like downplay everything, right? So you might be rich, but you still drive kind of an older, non-luxury vehicle. Why? When you really check in energetically about why that is, it very well could be from this wounded place of, I don't want people to think that I'm different than them. Why? Oh, because my belonging's on the line. I'm worried about how they would think about me, how they would treat me, how they would treat my family, what they would say behind my back. I'm worried that if people knew that I had wealth, that they would be hitting me up for money, that I would feel used and abused. So it can kind of hide itself and cloak itself in pretty subtle forms where it's like, oh no, I'm just a simple person and I don't feel like I have to drive nice cars. I don't feel like I have to have luxury purses and all of that, all the displays of wealth. And while that may be true to some degree, when you check in on really why that is, you may find that there's an evil money wound hiding and lurking there below the surface, and that it's really the money wound running the show and influencing those decisions rather than making the decision from a place of pure desire. Like, if you really truly desire the older non-luxury car, like if that's what really feels good and feels in perfect alignment for you, that's beautiful, right? It's not about the car that we drive, but it's about, are we making that decision from our inner authority and our soul alignment, or are we making that decision from the wound? Last one is the disappearing money wound. So the disappearing money wound, simply put, is a limiting belief that money is going to leave you. Money is going to abandon you. You don't trust money. So unlike the money trust wound, where it's like you don't trust yourself with money, with the disappearing money wound is that you don't trust money. You're like, I think I can have money, but what if the money just ups and leaves me? What if I have it and then I lose it all? When the disappearing money wound is running the show, often there's a lot of dramatic events around money. Because when our subconscious belief system is that the money can just leave at any time, there's two things that happen. Number one, we spend like there's no tomorrow. Because if you have $5,000 in your bank account and subconsciously you believe that it could go, then there's a desire to spend it and not be very long-term and forward thinking, but rather to just make a more impulsive purchase around it. The other thing that happens with the disappearing money wound is these sort of dramatic financial circumstances. So like you might get a nice chunk of money in the bank account, but then the car all of a sudden needs a big repair, or your kid's tuition is due, or there's some water damage in the house and the money has to go. And so it's like subconsciously we attract circumstances where money needs to leave because that fits our paradigm. Our paradigm is that the whole time we're watching the money in the account, we feel uneasy about it because it could go at any moment. And we'll also notice examples of people who have gained wealth and then lost it all. And we have a lot of fear around that because it's like, what if I put in all of this work? What if I put in all of this effort? What if I make all of this money and then it all goes? And so when we think about blocking money, if we deep down are worried that the money is going to leave us at some point, of course we don't want big amounts of it. Because if the money is going to leave me, I'd rather have $10 leave me than 10,000. And I'd rather have 10,000 leave me than 10 million. Because it's just going to make it hurt that much more. It's like if you know you're going to fall, you don't want to climb to the top of the tower, then fall, right? It's just a longer way down. It's just going to be more painful on impact. And so with the disappearing money wound, oftentimes there are surprise expenses. There's just an unsettled feeling, a little bit of worry around holding money because it almost feels better to just spend it and just clear the slate than to be holding the money and not knowing when it's going to leave. So this tends to be a more dramatic one. As I mentioned a little earlier, sometimes these money wounds, there's like an inner play. And what you've probably noticed as well is that the same decision can be made. The same thing can happen with money, but the energetic signature below it can be a little different, right? So an impulsive purchase gets made. Well, that could be the money trust wound. Like, I don't trust myself with this, get it out of here. And now I have further evidence of how bad I am with money. Or that same impulsive purchase could come more from the energetic signature of the disappearing money wound, which is sort of like, you're gonna leave me at some point anyway, so just go. So might as well just spend you now. So that's why having a diagnosis, understanding which money wounds you have, and learning how they feel in your body is so critically important, because the action itself might be the same from multiple different money wounds, and it might be the same as taking a soul-aligned action from your inner authority, because there's nothing inherently wrong with spending money, right? It's a resource that we have. It is made to be spent and circulated. So making a big purchase could come from soul alignment. It could come from a money trust wound. It could come from a disappearing money wound. Like, there's all of these different things that can be happening inside of our brain and inside of our body. But without a diagnosis, without an understanding of our money wounds, without some inner exploration to understand how they feel inside of our body, we don't really know what we're working with. So that is an overview of all 6 money wounds. And I'm going to move us into a healing exercise around one of the money wounds. Because as I mentioned, it's really important to me in this work that I do, and I do feel that this work around money wounds is a huge part of my mission and the way that I'm meant to be impacting this world, is bringing this work out into the world. And so it feels like such a gift that I'm able to do some of it in a free capacity. And it also feels incredible to do some of it for an energetic exchange and to be paid to do this work, both for myself, my family, my income, and what I'm able to do with that money, but also for everyone who is paying, right? Because that's a huge part of the energetic exchange as well. And that's a powerful way to tell the universe, like, okay, I'm really ready to heal this. I'm putting my money on the line. I'm committed. And so much of the transformation happens just in that transaction. So with that being said, I do want to offer some healing exercise around one of the money wounds, so that if we're just working together on this free masterclass, you're able to take away something actionable. You're actually, through this healing process that we'll do together, able to shift and move some energy and transform live together this morning. So let's do the hard money wound. I think this is one that's universal. Most of us have it, even if we just have a smidge of it. There's a feeling of more effort equals more income. And so to invite you into this healing practice, there's a few things that I want to speak to intellectually, and then we'll go into a moving of the energy and a repatterning of the thoughts and feelings so that we can change some of our actual physical response when we're transacting with money. That's the potency. That is the magic of this beautiful, beautiful medicine that we have access to. So with regard to the hard money wound, this is true of all money, but I think it specifically is important to highlight here that money does not come from other people. Money comes from source. I could give an entire masterclass just on that. So I'm going to trust that that lands for you. And if it doesn't land, feel free to send me a message and I can give you point you in the direction of some free resources to help you really anchor that in. But money comes from source. Money is energy. It's a tool that we've given energy to. So if tomorrow we decided that instead of giving paper that had, in the United States, a green and white pattern on it with a number on it, if instead we decided that Post-it notes were going to be the thing that we would trade, then we would be giving a value to this. But really, it's just a symbol of an energetic exchange. It feels like it's happening between two people, but when we look at the bigger picture and we zoom out, all of our resources come from source. They're all unlimited and they flow through people. So it's really important to have that as a foundational understanding as you're working on healing a hard money wound. One piece of healing the hard money wound is to practice receiving easy money. So here's what happens. If you had two choices If you were able to get $1,000 from, raking someone's lawn and then mowing their lawn and clearing out all of the old bricks that they've had piled up on the side of their house and taking them to the dump, or you were able to just get $1,000, that same person just gave it to you lovingly and said, I just want you to have this. There's a piece of you that would actually feel more comfortable doing the work for it. And so we have to reconcile that, because as long as it feels safer, it feels better, it feels like you can receive through hard work, it also means that on the flip side, you feel bad receiving in the absence of hard work. So understanding that there's a part of you that would feel deeply uncomfortable with that person just saying like, I just really want you to have this $1,000, please take it. And you being able to say, wow, thank you so much. This is such a blessing. I fully receive this. Oh, this feels so good. This just lights me up. I'm tingling from head to toe. You've totally made my day. You've made my week. Thank you. I fully receive. We got to get there, because that's when it actually feels good to our nervous system to receive easy money. Until that point, our nervous system actually feels better earning it and working hard for it. And then again, the energetic flip side is feeling kind of, I don't know if I can. Oh my gosh, I feel kind of guilty. I feel bad. What are people going to say? Should I even tell my friends and family that somebody just gave me $1,000 for doing nothing? When that's how it feels in our body, when we feel shame, when we feel guilt, when we feel nervous, when we feel deeply, deeply uncomfortable receiving easy money will not flow to us. Because money comes from source, it will always come through the path of least resistance. And for many people, the path of least resistance is actually the path of hard work, because you resist at least there, because it makes sense to you. Of course I got money for doing something hard. So the repatterning is required. Now, I'm going to trust that the people in my audience are on some sort of spiritual journey, that you're not just building your business, but you're also doing the inner work and the energetics, because if you weren't, you really would not be aligned with me and my messaging, and so you wouldn't be here. A huge piece of this is redefining hard work. It's redefining hard work, because you're still operating on this old pattern, this old paradigm, where you think that the hard work is having a full calendar where you check your email in the morning and then you hop on a team meeting and then you hop on with a client and then you run your kids to school and then you jump into another meeting and then you're deep in client work and then you're going live on Facebook and then you're writing social media posts and then you're on a sales call until the day is done. You think that's the hard work because that used to be the hard work. What I want so deeply for you is to recognize and redefine hard work. Because you know what's actually hard is not opening the laptop first thing in the morning. It's giving yourself the time to get quiet, to go into meditation, to go in communion with higher self and source, to journal on what's standing between you and this next version of yourself, to go into your shadow and really look at it for what it is, and to love it and to integrate it. It's having a member of your team come to you and say, hey, we need to make a decision on this thing. And instead of just making a logical decision or a gut decision, you say, let me sit with it. Let me check in. Let me tap into my intuition. That's actually the hard work. And in that sense, money can come to you through doing the hard work, but it's not the old paradigm of effort. It's not the manual labor. It's not opening your laptop and working for 8 hours straight and not even stopping to eat lunch. That's actually easier. It's easier because it's what we know, it's the old way. The hard work now is actually doing this soul-aligned work. The hard work is you taking an hour out of your Saturday to learn more about money wounds. The hard work is you listening to me talk and actually breathing into it and searching within yourself and saying, yes, I feel this. Ooh, that feels a little bit painful, but okay, I can sit with that. I can see it. I can actually withhold the part of me that wants to make myself wrong for it. I can love me through this. That's the hard work. And when you can believe that, we can really shift this whole hard money wound and turn it on its head. Because now money gets to come to you and come through you by you doing the ascension work, by you doing the inner work, by who you're being, by your vibrational energy. Because the truth is, that's actually the harder thing than just opening up your laptop and doing what you've always done and operating in your zone of genius. I want you to acknowledge the places where you've given easy money, where you've made it so simple for someone else to get money, where you didn't ask a million questions before you bought, where you just clicked on the link and sent the money, where you were an easy client, where you were a dream client, where it was just seamless, it was so win-win, it was a beautiful exchange, and you got to be someone else's easy money. Because if you're a match for giving easy money, you are also a match for receiving easy money. Now, the energetic flip side of that is you also need to clean up any places where you've been a hard money client, where you felt like, you know what, I paid this person good money and they need to work for it. Now, obviously, you can give money and you can't expect a service in return. I'm not saying you don't need to expect that. But when you have a hard money wound, sometimes you project that out and you become the hard money client. So look inside and acknowledge where that's happened so that you can clean that up. Now, in these last 3 minutes, we're going to actually go through a little forgiveness practice where we're going to cleanse all of the energy around these old patterns, this old feeling in the body around hard money. So I'm going to sit up straight and close my eyes as I do this. If that feels good for you, do the same. If you're driving or you're tuning in from wherever, it's fine. You can just listen. I forgive myself for all the places where I've made money so hard. I see it now. I see this hard money wound. I'm sending it so much love. I'm sending it so much love and deep, 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 deep healing. I'm visualizing this wound closing up and fully healing with not even a trace of a scar there. As I forgive myself for making money so hard. And money, I ask for your forgiveness. I'm so sorry I made you jump through so many hoops to come to me. I'm sorry that the only place I didn't resist you was through hard work, was through difficult clients, was through complicated business structure. Man, I made it really hard for you and you still came. Thank you. Thank you so much for showing up for me. I'm sorry I made it so hard. I'm changing that now. I forgive myself for all the places that I've demonized others for easy money, where I've made people wrong for receiving unemployment, for receiving welfare, for receiving trust fund money, for receiving a windfall. I see now that they were a match for easy money in a place where I wasn't. I forgive myself for all the judgment and criticism. And I ask for their energetic forgiveness of me for all the judgments, for the criticisms. I didn't know better. I now open myself to receiving easy money. As I breathe into the idea of someone giving me $1,000 for no reason at all, I imagine myself taking some deep breaths, every cell of my body opening itself up to receiving, 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 really allowing it to fully land. Breathing through any parts of myself that feels unworthy of it, that feels guilt or shame around it. With every breath I exhale, I release the guilt. I release the shame. I release the judgments and criticisms. I release any feelings of unworthiness. And I recognize that money comes through source. It comes from source and it comes through people, and I am now ready to receive it in all ways, shapes, and forms, but especially through the easy money. And I'm committed now to celebrating all of the ways that easy money is showing up in my life and showing up for those around me. I will now see all evidence of easy money as evidence that it's possible for me too. I will now receive all easy money in any size, shape, way, or form as evidence that more is on its way. I will celebrate it. I'll open myself up to fully receiving it so that I can repattern my nervous system, that I can feel joy and gratitude and deep trust in my body when it comes. From now on, when I see money coming to me through difficulty, through effort, through an exchange that feels like I have to lose something in order to gain money, I now see it through new eyes. I thank that money for coming, but I also acknowledge and allow it to come through different forms. I examine the business structures, the clients, the ways in which money has felt hard, and I'm committed to making different choices, to allowing it to come through in much easier ways than it has in the past. Deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. To really anchor in the feelings of trust and safety in this new way. Trust that you would not be receiving this message, that you would not be here doing this healing practice if it wasn't for you, and if you weren't now ready for it. There are millions and millions who would have had access to this training, but they're not yet ready for it, so they never even saw it. They would never even click on a link, and they would never attend the training. And that's okay. We bless them, we honor them, we trust that this message will be here when those are ready. But we acknowledge ourselves for being ready now. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. I receive, I receive, I receive, I receive, I receive. Peace. Amen. healing process is now complete. As you breathe your way back into your body, you can wiggle your fingers and toes to make a gentle re-entry before you open your eyes. And I trust that that landed for you in such a deep, potent way. And I trust that the healing process will continue beyond this brief period of time that we've had together. I visualize it in my mind, the energy just swirling, 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 picking up steam, picking up momentum, and just healing you at a cellular level. And every cell in your body just beaming with this beautiful white light as you completely, potently, permanently rewire your nervous system for easy receiving of money. That concludes the masterclass for today. If you'd like to stay on, I will talk to you a little bit about money wounds medicine. Now, you've just gotten a really beautiful taste of what's waiting for you inside of money wounds medicine. This is a huge part of my mission. This is not just a program that I'm going to run once and then who knows? It goes off into the Facebook land ethers, never to be heard of, seen of, or talked about again. This is a huge piece of what I know Spirit wants me doing on this planet. We're going to be going deeper into each of the 6 money wounds and doing a lot of potent healing around each one. So it's part intellectual and then it's mainly embodiment and healing work, because this is the deep medicine that's required to truly move through and heal these wounds. It goes so much deeper than what we did today, but I do believe that today's healing was super potent and gives you a really good taste of what's happening inside of that program. As people take the Money Wounds quiz in their own beautiful divine timing, they can sign up and instantly receive access to the Money Wounds Medicine program to start healing their money wounds. There's a link where you can click and purchase. If you can't find it for whatever reason or you have a question, feel free to send me a DM. My DMs are open for you. So with that, I thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. Bye.